All right, thank you for joining us today at the trial of Chuckwagon MTG. We have assembled a full court, but without further ado, we're going to get started. All rise. The Honorable Cody Smith presiding.
Come now, the petitioner, the Magic community, themselves and pro se, respectfully present to show the court that Chuckwagon has made a very bold claim of saying that 70% of MTG strategists' claims would not be correct in the Throne of Eldraine, and he has not responded within 6 months preceding the filing of petition herein, an actual resident and in good faith in the state of the internet. We are here to judge him whether worthy or unworthy.
The court will now hear pleadings.
The defendant has the floor.
Chuckwagon MTG, how do you plead?
I plead not guilty.
Well, in my opening statement, I would like to say that not only are you guilty, but you are uber guilty. I was just strolling along innocent, making a few very commonsensical claims about Throne of Eldraine in a video that you and I produced, and then out of nowhere, you shock and awed me by saying at the very end that if 70% of these were correct, that you would in fact eat an entire booster pack. Now, I took personal offense to this, saying that I could not accurately predict an entire set of Magic the Gathering cards, which what I'm going to show today is that I can meet that threshold of 70%. Do you have any opening statements, sir?
Yes. So I recall the day in question, and I had just gotten back from an orphan puppy meeting, where we help them, and you had made statements, wild statements about what you believe to be in this set, and I simply said that I think you are incorrect. And while I did make the statement that I would eat a pack of cards if you were at least 70% correct, I don't think you're anywhere near that. And the orphan puppies that I saved that day actually agree with me. So I will leave it to you people, but you will see that these predictions were wildly inaccurate, and I should be acquitted of all charges.
Well, I hear your opening statement. I would like, before we go into our trial, I would like to introduce our jury.
I'll allow it.
So, moving from left to right, we have Mr. Langalia. Good morning.
Good morning.
And a King of Jank from the Great White North.
Good morning.
And Albie MTG from somewhere else.
That's fair, yeah. From parts unknown.
Now, before I start my arguments, Your Honor, I just want to say that even though the jury is stacked with friends of mine, that I have in no way influenced their personal opinions on this. And you being also a friend of mine, I'm sure that you will allow this.
I feel that this advisory proceeding has been affirmed by the Magic community at large, and I'll allow it.
Thank you much.
To verify his statement, we did not take any bribes, nor did we get any trophies, maybe in the upcoming events to come.
I feel that there's no amicus curiae, so I feel that this will be a full and correct legal proceeding, and there's nothing wrong with what I see here.
Thank you, Your Honor. So to open my arguments, I would like to talk about the tribes. Now, I made the claim that we would receive some support for several different tribes. Now, I'll admit that maybe one of these could possibly not have adequate support in the set. But I will show beyond a shadow of a doubt that almost all of them do. The first tribe that I would like to discuss, Merfolk. And I'm not stacking the deck in my favor, because Fishing a Merfolk podcast is presiding. So Exhibit A and B, C, D, and E. I present 5 Merfolk from Throne of Eldraine that provide adequate support to the Merfolk tribe. Emery, Lurker of the Loch, Merfolk Secret Keeper, Moonlit Scavengers, Sage of the Falls, and Wishful Merfolk, all individually incredibly powerful Merfolk. I present this to the jury for your discussion.
They're not very good cards. Emery's like the only good one that I would say is of adequate support. I think the word adequate is what gets me here, because Scavengers, Sage of the Falls, and Wishful Merfolk are only cards I've ever seen cast in limited, but I think the other two are reasonable enough that you could convince me that they provide adequate support.
So when we say support, what are we defining as support here?
We kept it general. We just said that the tribe would receive, or that this tribe would be represented in the set, and would have good representation. And these 5 cards, I have concluded make up good representation of the Merfolk tribe.
Your Honor, I want to bring a claim to this statement, which I personally think is balderdash. This is completely bogus in the fact that 2 of these 3 Merfolk, 40% of the cards that Mr. Freeze is bringing up here involve artifacts. Relics that you hold, swords, ancient tombs, etc. How do fish hold such a thing when they have fins and not fingers? How can these Merfolk support a whole tribe when they can't even hold the things that they want to cherish so much? This is bogus. This is a ridiculous claim, and this should be stricken from the court.
I would like to refute that immediately. I would like to point your attention to Emery, Lurker of the Loch, who is plainly in the artwork holding a glowing sword. A Merfolk.
Yeah, she holding
a sword. Sir, I refute your claim. Refute it.
I would also like.
Can she hold the sword?
Can I respond? Can I respond, Your Honor? Can I respond?
Before I allow King of Jank to respond, I would like to point the court's attention to Merfolk Looter, which is 1 in the blue. Merfolk don't always know what they're looking for, but they're certain once they find it. There are Merfolk that have classically held artifacts very near and dear, but that is neither here nor there because I am not the one presenting evidence. I just want to establish the credibility of Merfolk holding artifacts.
It has precedence. If the Merfolk can hold it, you must acquit. That's all I'm saying.
This is a kangaroo. This is a kangaroo court. We have an innocent man on the stand, and this is kangaroo court.
Granted, he's right though. You have seen throughout time, like specifically Merfolk's carrying. I believe there is some in the artifact deck involving Saheeli, even in Commander. So like, I do believe that playing artifacts with Merfolk was not necessarily the crux of the failure of the argument. It's are the Merfolk valid, right? And do they provide support? Was the
correct
claim, right?
There was no level of support indicated.
Wishful Merfolk, I'm not sure that supports much, right? Wishful Merfolk, turning into a human until end of turn isn't exactly a powerful move, right? So I mean,
Your Honor, I
you know,
object. I object. This argument line is clearly a racist attempt against humans. Clearly. Just because this merfolk can turn into a human does not make it any less of a merfolk.
I don't know, kinda. Kind of says it tribal wise. It kinda.
But also noted, it loses its defender status and can attack as a human.
As a human.
As a human, so.
But not as a merfolk.
Yeah, but as a merfolk, it is strong, holding the line. But what?
It gets shocked.
But once it turns into its weaker form of a human, it can attack and die.
Also, Wishful Merfolk does not lose the Merfolk subtype.
Oh,
that is true.
It only gains being a human, so it's a Merfolk human when it attacks.
So it is an additional subtype.
That's disgusting. That's a disgusting.
All right, Chuck, can I hear your defense of the arguments that have been brought to your attention?
So yeah, I've been listening to these arguments, and weak at absolute best. Moonlit scavengers, I personally don't even think that's actually a merfolk. I'm pretty sure that's someone posing as a merfolk, looking at the art on the card, so I don't even think that could be included. And as for Emery, Lurker of the Loch, yes, she is holding a sword, but do we really want to trust someone who uses a weapon in a lake to determine who will forever rule the land with that sword? I don't think we can trust that. And as for Wishful Merfolk, the whole thing about it being a human and merfolk, I think that this is simply a confused fish.
Slight objection on that point, but
hey, if a merfolk wants to identify as a human, that's that merfolk's choice. All right.
No, that
for 2 mana though,
100% is. It 100% is, but that does not offer more support to the merfolk. And that's what we are discussing here, is not whether or not they're in the set, but whether or not they offer support.
Would you say that the fact that a merfolk can also be a human, that it adds the full human support in addition to merfolk support, so it can have both tribes together acting in unison? So it actually doubles the support for that card, and for both merfolk and human. Your argument's outrageous.
So
Your Honor, I object. That's blasphemous to merfolk.
I think it's blasphemous to humans.
I think you kind of saved yourself with the vagueness of your statement, because you said, I think there'd be adequate support. You didn't say which format.
True that.
Right? There's no necessarily like modern cards here that are super, super relevant, right? Like maybe
Emery's pretty good.
Yeah,
it doesn't see play in the modern merfolk deck. Like, none of these cards go in like any merfolk tribal decks. Maybe Commander, I don't know. But like Emery is pretty good.
I was gonna say, in Commander though, being able to cast your things from the graveyard, specifically artifacts for tap, it may not necessarily be a tribal strength, but it does provide strength as a format to merfolk, in the fact that a lot of times Commander relies on artifacts for ramp. So, I think you got it on this one. It does provide support to at least one format somewhere.
Does it provide support to the merfolk tribe? Does it?
Yep.
No, it doesn't. I would rather eat most of these cards and put them in a merfolk deck if I had one.
Well, right. that may be another case.
Order in the court. I would like. So on charge 1, the charge of whether merfolk got equal and representative support. I would like the jury to take note of their findings, and they will discuss it in their in their dealings. But I think we should move on to the next charge, so that way we're not eating up too much of the court's time.
Okay. Your Honor, the next tribe I would like to talk about, which beyond a shadow of a doubt has received enough support, is the Knight tribe. Let me find.
Oh.
I don't even think we need to discuss this one too much.
Got him.
I would like the viewers to note that Chuck is loudly chewing on some snacks, and it is quite entertaining.
Is this not allowed in the courtroom?
I will allow it.
Your Honor, I object.
Objection.
He's
sustained.
distracting me with his chewing. Your Honor, for the evidence I would like to present are the following cards. There is a plethora of knights for the Throne of Eldraine
object.
that goes on and on. If we started discussing these, we would never stop. And of great note, there was also tournament grounds, the land specifically made for the Knight tribe. There is Circle of Loyalty, which that makes more knights, and it costs one less for each knight you control. And then you have just an impossible amount of knights that you can choose from Throne of Eldraine. I hand this to the jury.
Your Honor, I object.
I object to you.
First off,
I object.
I would.
All of this evidence is very damning, and I would like it not included.
Stricken from the record.
Yes.
First off, I would like the stenographer to stricken from the record the amount of impossible amount of knights, because I believe there isn't an impossible amount of knights. Second off, Chuck, your objection is not sustained. Because this is evidence being submitted for your judgment. You cannot call what is good or not good evidence.
Yeah.
But it makes my case so much weaker.
Your Honor, I would like to hand this to the jury for discussion.
The jury may discuss the evidence.
There's knights.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk. Like, inspiring veteran right there on nice. Your Scryfall basically just says that this is a knight set. So
Knight's charge.
Yeah, there's a bunch of knight-related cards.
Yeah,
that one card is obviously a griffin, not even a knight.
Who said knights can't ride griffins?
You can also ride unicorns. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a unicorn. I definitely think that the unicorn adds a sort of magical element to this argument.
So Your Honor, I'd like to move to the next tribe, since this one's just a slam dunk.
I will allow moving to the next argument.
For your consideration, I would like to discuss dwarves. Now, you may look at these three cards, these three dwarves, but individually they are some of the most powerful dwarves in any set. You have, okay, maybe not Rimrock Knight, maybe not that one, but we have 7 dwarves, so this one counts for 7 dwarves in the set. They each buff each other, and you can have up to 7 of them in your deck. That's an incredible amount of dwarves that you can have in a standard deck. Additionally, Torbrand, legendary creature, dwarf noble. This is a menace to the standard community right now because burn has been projected into like hyperspace with this thing. Whenever a red source deals damage to an opponent, it adds 2 additional damage to it. Your Honor, I think these dwarves speak for themselves. I hand it to the jury.
I will allow this evidence. I will allow this evidence to be submitted to the jury for discussion.
There's only 3 of them.
There's 11. There's 7 dwarves.
The defendant. I asked the defendant to.
There's 9.
Respect the process of the court. I've submitted the evidence to the jury. Chuck, you will have your option to rebut in a moment.
I'm sorry, what?
There are 11 dwarves in this, or 9 dwarves. There's 7 of these, 8, 9. Yeah, there's 9 dwarves.
So the two really don't matter, right? There's 7 dwarves and Rimrock. They're kind of they're dwarves, but they suck. Torbran, he would make Gimli proud. So I believe the statement we keep going back to is that do they support? You didn't say how adequately they supported. Just do they support? And you didn't define which format. So I could see this in EDH Furnace.
I want to contest the statement that Mr. Freeze said that Torban is menace in Standard. I am currently looking at the Standard metagame, and it is dominated by green and blue decks. There is Gruul aggro, which contains red, but there is no Torban in that, and only 4.38% of the meta is mono red aggro, and that is significantly weaker than any deck that contains Oko.
Your Honor, I'd like to respond. In the last Mythic Championship 5, was there not, in the top 8, a deck consisting of no less than 3 Torbrands? Yes, there was. There was a single.
No.
I have concluded from this that the metagame has not caught up to where Torbrand is out there for everybody. I think once people understand the power of this card, that they will move more towards it and create, oband within the meta. And as for
objection.
And as for Lang's saying 7 dwarves aren't that good, I will have you know these are 7 dwarf lords. These aren't just individual dwarves that go on. These are each a dwarf lord that plus each other up. So every time you...
But they start out as 2/2 though. And you can respond instantly. So
it starts...
That's shock range.
That's fine, but with one, say on turn 4, you get 2 of these out and they're 3/3s. Turn 5, you get 2 more out and they're 5/5s. I mean, that is...
I think you have the strongest case with Torbrand though, because he makes up 349 decks as the leading commander. So, and a lot of them are tribal.
Yeah.
On EDH Rec. So
I want to object to what Mr. Freeze said about Standard. He is extrapolating data that we no longer have. If you want to play that game, Mr. Freeze, if you want to play the game of future evidence, then go join the stock market, not in this
Your
program.
Honor, I would like to have Mr. King of Jank designated as a hostile juror.
I will not allow it. I will allow Mr. Jank to remain on the jury. Mr. Albee, I have not heard from you in this argument. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so I guess my position as a juror, I don't really play Commander. I'm more of a competitive player, so I don't really see the value in these cards Commander wise, but in terms of support for the tribe itself, 7 dwarves does add 7 copies of a dwarf that you could add to some sort of dwarf tribal deck instead of just the 4 that you would normally receive from a printed card. You guys also aren't giving Rimrock Knight enough credit. It is actually played in the mono red standard decks. So I know you guys were counting it out, but it is played in those. So it does give the dwarfs a little bit of a spotlight in the standard format. And Torbrand is also just a very great dwarf as well. And when we look through the history of Magic, the dwarves have been a red and white tribe. So Torbrand fits pretty well into that dwarf strategy. So I have to lean more towards the side that dwarves are supported here.
Amen and hallelujah.
So,
hallelujah.
All right. I would like to now allow the defendant Chuck to make his statements.
What's up? What? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. So real quick. So our Rimrock Knight, while he is good, he does not support other dwarves. You can target any creature with him, not just dwarves. 7 dwarves, same thing. Only buffs other copies of himself. He is not dwarven support. He is dwarven selfish. Torbrand, once again, while he does accentuate the red and adding more damage, it applies to anything. Last time I checked, Lightning Bolt was not considered a dwarf. So while he is good, he does not support the actual dwarves.
So I have a quick question for Albie.
Hmm?
When you say Rimrock Knight's good, is that for the Boulder Rush aspect of it, which is the adventure, or the actual 2 CMC 3/1 body?
So both.
Oh.
I think so. It wouldn't be played if it wasn't an adventure. If it was just a 2-mana 3/1 that couldn't block, it wouldn't be played. But having the ability to have 2 cards built into one makes it good enough. You have the additional pump spell there that makes it like okay to get in for an extra 2 points of damage. And then if you just need another creature on the board, then just playing a 2-mana 3/1 can sometimes be fine.
And then having that in exile and being able to call on that whenever, or at the speed that's dictated, but that's still added value. Okay, but I would say would the value come more from the body or from the rush aspect?
I would say value does come more from the rush aspect, but like neither of the Boulder Rush or the Rimrock Knight would be playable if not put together.
So that's why it was built in together as a dwarf.
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next charge. Jury, make your notes. Take your notes that you have to. We will move on to the next charge.
All right. The next tribe I would like to discuss, Your Honor, let me bring it up here for you, is the tribe of giants. For your consideration, the following giants: Beanstalk Giant, Bone Crusher Giant, Garen Brigg Paladin, Rampart Smasher, Realm Cloak Giant, and Yorvo, Lord of Garen Brigg. Your Honor, or the members of the jury, within these giants, there is support for the giant tribe that has never been there before. There's a giant board wipe. There is a search function in the Beanstalk Giant, and which is also supported by the number of lands you have out, which you just haven't seen that in the giant tribe before. There's also Bone Crusher Giant, which, in my humble opinion, is the most powerful giant in the set. Jury, the decision is yours. Please discuss.
I yield to Mr. Freeze.
Yes.
Yeah. It seemed like there'd be giants.
There'd be giants. All right.
Mr. Albie, do you have anything to add?
No, there be giants. That's about it.
All right.
Mr. Chuckwagon, do you have any defense in this area?
Yeah, the exact same argument as last time. Once again, these are all cards that, while good, do not directly support giants. They support anything and everything along with it. And plus, none of these cards are even good. I mean, Yorvo, really? That card is absolutely awful. And who wants a board wipe on a stick or on a creature?
Ooh.
No, but nobody wants this. Nobody wants this.
Oh,
Nobody asked for it. So it's. I think these cards are irrelevant, and once again, they don't support just giants. So
destroy all non-giant.
it doesn't say that.
Your Honor.
All right.
It says destroy all stuffs.
Your Honor, obviously the defendant is suffering from some sort of malady that involves potato chips and possibly some sock puppets. So I would like to move on to the next tribe.
Let's move on to the next tribe.
So the next tribe I would like to discuss, which I don't expect to get much traction on, is I made the claim that the bear tribe would have support. And the only card that supports the bears in any way is Flaxen Intruder, which, by itself is a great card and can support the bear tribe by creating 3/2/2 bears. But I would like to hand this to the jury for further discussion.
I don't see bear on the card except for the sorcery, which is 7 mana.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on to the next one.
I'd like to point out one quick thing. Mr. Freeze, if you could possibly click on the other art for this card.
The other art?
Uh-oh.
The bear token?
No, the full art version of it. Or does it have it in there?
Let me see.
It should be in the Prince area. There you go.
Okay. So I'd like everyone to take a good long look at this card. The only support for bears in this card are the bear that is currently supporting our Flaxen Intruder and the bear heads being supported on the wall behind her.
She got him.
There is no bear support, only bear hate.
Your Honor, if there's no more arguments, then I would concede this point that there is not adequate support for the bear tribe by Flaxen Intruder.
We can move on to the next argument. The jury, make your own notes about what you feel in this area.
I just drew a piece of shit.
Yeah, Your Honor, my next claim that I made was that there would be support for the rat tribe. For the jury's consideration, I offer Chittering Witch, Mad Ratter, and Piper of the Swarm. Piper of the Swarm, a rat lord that makes more rats. Yes, terrifying dogs around the world. Mad Ratter, whenever you draw your second card, you can create a 1/1 black rat creature token. And Chittering Witch, which also can create 1/1 black rat creature tokens, but those tokens can then be sacrificed to give -2/-2 till end of turn to other creatures. Jury, what say you?
Piper's good. For commander, in my mind, because I have a rats commander deck, and I'd put it in there, so I'd say it supports the tribe. The other two,
Yeah, I kind of feel similarly. I'm not like the first two, the Chittering Witch and the Mad Ratter, don't really do anything for the tribe, but I think the static ability on Piper of the Swarm makes it enough to say that rats were supported through Throne of Eldraine.
I would argue that rats are not in a red color, thus the Mad Ratter would be a hard fit into a rat-based EDH deck, but the other two would be auto-includes.
All right, thank you.
they have menace.
Chuck, do you have anything that you would like to say before we move on to the next tribe? Once again, another slam dunk.
Unfortunately, yes, I have more to say. I gotta agree with you on this one because I have been building a modern black-red, essentially rat deck, and it is absolutely wonderful. It's an update from the Suicide Black we ran on the channel a while back, so the rat support is there. But fortunately, this is just one of many, so still not enough to find guilty on this.
I submit that we have arguments from both sides, and we should move on to the next topic.
I'll bring up my next tribe if I can find it. Your Honor, the next tribe that I made the claim that there would be support in the set was the Wolf Tribe. And I submit to the jury Garrett Cursed Huntsman as well as Wicked Wolf, 2 incredibly powerful cards in Standard and possibly other formats. Garrett creating 2/2 black and green wolf creature tokens. Whenever they die, they add loyalty counters to him. So a wolf producing machine. And Wicked Wolf, which was used in several decks in the top in the Mythic Championship 5. Very powerful on its own, but jury, I hand you for discussion.
Well, Mr. Freeze, I'm finding it hard to follow your logic of what support is. Support for the game? Support for competitive play? Or tribal support? Because every time you bring up a tribe, you seem to describe support in a way that beneficiaries, if that's a word, yourself.
My claim in the original video was there would be representation of these tribes in Throne of Eldraine.
Well, when you first opened this courtroom argument, you said support, specifically tribal support. So now you're doubling back on your very first statement. So how can we take any of this evidence that we've already been going through and use it to go against Mr. Wagon MTG when you keep redefining the words that you're using? Sir, what type of dictionary are you using, Mr. Freeze? Is it Webster's or is it
Your Honor,
the JJ Dictionary of Complete and Utter baloney
of argument completely out of order? When
I will allow this argument to stay on the record.
It is whiny and it is annoying.
Well, Mr. Freeze, if your spelling and semantics is as strong as your ability to count when it comes to an infinite amount of nights when the page ended after a finite amount of nights, then I don't really trust any of your arguments.
I said impossible amount. And who's to decide what's possible and impossible? It's subjective.
Well, considering that there's 7.123 etc. billion people on the Earth, that I guess an impossible amount would have to be several billion nights.
Your Honor, I would like to have King of Jank designated as a loose cannon juror.
The motion is not sustained.
Once again,
reasonable juror, as Mr. Freeze cannot get his ducks words or numbers in a row.
So you said Wicked Wolf was strong on its own. I see sacrifice of food. No.
It is stronger. When you feed the wolf, it gets stronger. But on its own, when it enters the battlefield, fights up to one target creature you don't control. Very powerful.
But the wolf requires food. It doesn't say, I don't know, like when you sacrifice another wolf or when you sacrifice a food, all your wolves get stronger. It just says sacrifice a food. And Garrick's actually, in my mind, his main ability is his -3 because this removal mixed with drawing a card is almost more integral than, making wolves.
And if I may point out, with Garrick, much like the Flaxen psychopath bear murderer, for this to be support for the wolf tribal, this would have to help the wolf community when Garrick is obviously simply throwing these poor dogs in harm's way only to benefit himself. I would not only not call that support, but I would call it a detriment to the wolf community.
He also eats loving cookie people, by the way.
Your Honor, I
will before you continue, King of Jank. I will say that the level of sanity exhibited by Flaxen Intruder is pending a psychological evaluation, and I would like to not have any slurs or detriments pointed at her until that evaluation is complete.
Thank you, Your Honor, for keeping civility in this court.
Your Honor, may I bring up a previous court case? I believe in regards to Garuk Curse Huntsman and his dogs. Can I bring up the court case of the People versus Vic in which a certain high caliber sports person, Mr. Michael Vick, actually was doing similar interactions to his dogs that this cursed huntman is doing to his wolves, and I believe the whole jury and the whole courtroom knows what happened to Michael Vick. That is not supporting the tribe of dogs, similar to how Garuk Curse Huntman is not supporting the tribe of wolves.
Are you on the jury or the defendants?
The historical argument will be entered in for consideration by the jury, but I am not the one to establish how that information is used.
Your Honor, I'm going to move on to the next tribe because obviously this one is affecting King of Jank's personal, his personal mental stability. So we just need to keep an eye on him for this trial. He seems to be slipping a little bit. I'm just, putting that out there. Josh, if you need a break, if you need to take a break, we're here for you. We can take a short break and you can.
I will take a break when justice is served, Mr. Freeze, and my mental stability is none of your concerns when yours is clearly fringing as well.
Well,
also, were all the bets on tribal?
No. We're not even halfway through. These are just the tribes. So I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit so we can get into the other one. So the next tribe I'd like to discuss is the Dragon tribe. The claim that there would be representation in Throne of Eldraine for dragons, and that they would, support the tribe. I think this set of 4 dragons represents an incredible amount of power, but I'm just going to hand it directly to the jury for discussion.
No. I will not hear the jury's discussions.
I move to have that belt stricken from the record. Stricken from the record.
The belt shall remain on the record.
You just see the text.
It's a travesty of justice.
So, I see target human on opportunistic dragon. I don't. I see a lot of attack triggers. I see a lot of artifact synergy, but maybe they're additions to Dragon Tribal, maybe an EDH, but I don't think they strictly support the tribe itself.
Are they not well represented? We have 4 beautiful dragon creatures here. You have one that's a legendary, a mythic Corvold. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you sacrifice another
Your
permanent.
Honor.
You got Lock Dragon.
Your Honor, I know that Mr. Freeze has trouble with his words, and thus he's showing us that he can spell, but we all see the cards. This is just taking up the court's time. We don't need him to read out what every card does. There are clearly no support for the Dragon Tribe if his argument for this is just reading the words that are on our screen.
A Corvold got turned into a dragon as well, historically speaking.
I would like to hear Albie's statement added to the record.
Yeah, so with Lang saying about the opportunistic dragon targeting a human, it targets one of your opponent's humans, so it does something negative to it, so it does kind of go with the whole, dragons killing a human thing or whatever. But with the 4 dragons we have here, I don't think any of them would see play even in a dragon tribal commander deck. I think there's significantly better dragons that you could cheat out or cast or just anything like that. So I'm not feeling the dragon support here.
But what about in standard? Standard dragon support is there.
But none of the cards are very good.
So you would say that other sets support these dragons, Mr. Freeze?
I say that
thus these dragons are not supporting anyone else. They need to be supported.
I say they add value to the dragon community.
On this side,
Mr. Chuck,
the Shimmer Dragon is really good, actually.
Mr. Chuckwagon, your defense.
Yeah, I don't even think I need to say anything here. This is very obvious which direction we should go with the dragons here, so I feel enough has been said.
All right, we'll move on to the next charge.
My final tribal group that I would like to talk about is the Witch Tribe. Behold, several different. Well, not this one. This was just a name thing that came up. But so we have Borrow Witch, Chittering Witch, Tempting Witch. When we have two witch-related artifact, or one witch-related artifact and a witch-related land, and I would like to predefine something for you. These are warlocks, which are male witches. So I would like to remove the gender issues associated with calling these witches.
I will allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Jury?
Historical context says witches are different than warlocks, and it's not associated with any, you know.
The court has already ruled on this.
that aside, I see warlock in the creature type.
That's true, but the name, witches, witch. I see witches everywhere. I see.
Which witch are you?
Everything's a witch, except for that one wolf. That's a witch stalker.
Don't switch up your witch. You know, could become a Nintendo Switch.
Why wasn't that wolf in your wolf section?
Also, yes.
Mr.
Actually, we might have deemed that a little bit more worth. I mean, it's still kind of like not there, but that's where the food token comes in. Also, hate food tokens, just on the record.
I don't know why that didn't come up. I don't know.
But
your
either
evidence
way,
is slipping, Mr. Freeze.
Look how tempting this witch is.
Oh, it has food on it. No, that's not.
But it creates its own food. It creates a little apple.
Oh yeah,
it can eat,
I hate.
And then target player loses 2 or 3 life when you eat the apple.
Your Honor, Mr. Freeze is now describing basic biological functions. How is this evidence? You need to eat to survive. Next, he's going to tell us that food travels through the intestines and comes out as a pile of steaming fecal matter. This is not evidence. This is just the way that life is.
Your Honor, Mr. King of Jank is clearly just wanting to speak to hear his own voice. So I would like to jump out of tribes immediately and move to 4 slam dunks that nobody can argue with.
We will move on shortly, but I would like to hear Chuck Wagon's defense in the witches charge.
Once again, none of them offer support to other witches instead of warlocks. But honestly, it's some fun cards, and I have played most of these. There isn't support. There isn't enough. Even in standard, in fact, if you took all of the Magic cards in Magic history from Alpha to now, I still don't think you could make even a remotely decent witch deck.
And Kumbaj Witches, one of the oldest witches, is considered a human wizard.
Yeah, so I just did the same exact thing. I went on Scryfall and typed up everything that had witch in its name, and the only warlocks I'm seeing are these ones from Throne of Eldraine.
Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of wizards, I see a lot of shamans, even spell shapers.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of warlocks.
There actually isn't a witch type, is there?
No, there's no witch creature type.
All this evidence will be added to the record, and I will have it submitted to the jury for their consideration. But we will move on to the next charge.
Thank you, Your Honor. So for the next 4, I predicted 4 different types of equipment that would be produced in this set. And let me tell you, these are almost completely accurate, almost to the word. So the first one, which is a complete slam dunk, is I predicted that there would be an equipment that would be a spinning wheel of some sort.
That's not equipment.
Or,
Yeah.
excuse me, there would be a card that, or there would be a card that is a spinning wheel of some sort. These aren't necessarily equipments that I predicted. I predicted that they would have a spinning wheel of some sort in the set.
That was or was not an equipment, Mr. Freeze. I need clarification on every statement you make.
I made
now.
no further claims other than that a card with the name or with the context of a spinning wheel would be in the set.
So we went from an equipment that is a spinning wheel to a card that is a spinning wheel to a card that may or may not include the depiction that may represent a spinning wheel.
Your Honor, I would like to note that juror number 2, King of Jank, is trying to douchebag me.
I would like to have it entered into the record that I believe that the cause of action was clarified satisfactorily to the court, and I will allow the jury to continue their debate.
It's a spinning wheel.
True that. 100% accurate. Moving on to the next, my next.
Wait.
What could he say? What could he possibly say? He can say nothing.
Mr. JJ, I will hold you in contempt of court. What I need
I
is,
hold you
is
in contempt.
I
hold this whole court in contempt.
Everyone has.
I'll put the
Everyone
system
has
on
their
trial.
chance. Court. Everyone has their chance in court. Even though I cannot speak to whether or not the evidence presented is valid or good. Chuck Wagon does have an opportunity to respond.
I cannot answer this question due to a conflict with my religion.
So moving on to
the next.
The next prediction. I stated that this set would have in it a magic mirror. And voila, the magic mirror in the set. What say you, jury?
It's a magic mirror.
True that.
He said a magic mirror, not the magic mirror.
Argumentative.
Well, hypothetically speaking, the magic mirror would be a magic mirror.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I am going for I was predicting the concept of a magic mirror, just like the concept of a spinning wheel. I didn't clearly, define it as this type of thing that'll do this type of thing. I just wanted to have a concept of a magic mirror. So it could have been named something else, like some sort of, mystical mirror or something. But I was, these predictions were for the concept of what I wanted to see in the set.
Not even cards anymore, just concepts.
Concepts.
That was a bad bet. No. 70%.
I will allow Mr. JJ's statements to remain on the record for the jury's consideration.
All right. So the next prediction I made was to have some sort of glass slipper in the set, and lo and behold, Crystal Slipper revealed in Eldraine. What say you, jury?
Crystal or glass?
I said some sort of glass slipper. So this is clearly a representation of a glass slipper. Probably not able to use the word glass slipper due to some sort of copyright infringement issues, but
Mickey Mouse would just punch them in the face.
yeah, Marky Mouse.
If I could point something out very quickly, glass is a man-made object, while crystal can be man-made, but it also occurs naturally. So they cannot be the two of the same things.
So in the flavor text, it says, found that things that appear fragile can be very strong indeed. So it is saying it's crystal, even though it looks fragile.
But is this or is this not some sort of glass slipper? It is.
I would argue that it's actually a crystal high heel shoe. I would not want to wear that walking out of bed.
Crystal croc.
To put on my slippers.
I would also like it entered into the jury's consideration that is legal in literally every format. So I want that noted by the jury.
True that.
Also, it's a really strong card, so I'm gonna say he got it. just for my own record.
And, so with that, I will add my fourth prediction to this group of four. Now, when we're talking about the set in the video, I said that there would be some sort of sword that was akin to a Excalibur sword, a very powerful sword that could be used in this set. And I submit to you, jury, that Embercleave is in fact that sword.
Actually, I think the sword that the
more closely
merfolk carry would be more likely to be that sword, because the mythos of that went back to the Lady of the Lake handing off a sword to King Arthur, and that sword being an iteration of Excalibur. So I don't know if Embercleave would be the component you're primarily looking for.
Well, the representation of the sword in the the Lady in the Lake with a sword, that wasn't this is a real piece of equipment that you can use in the game. So the art, that's a artistic representation of it, but this is a physical representation of an Excalibur.
I'm saying their sword may have come from a different set. The Excalibur is just kind of an ambiguous shining sword, presumably like Sword of Light and Shadow or Sword of da-da-da. I don't know if Embercleave would fit the criteria of Excalibur.
But in the storyline of the set of Throne of Eldraine, is this or is this not a adequate representation of what could be considered a type of Excalibur sword?
Don't you say sword.
I would like to have entered to the record that watery tarts throwing swords at people is a symbol of a self-perpetuating autocracy and not a legitimate system of government.
But you can't expect to wield supreme executive power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you. Shut up!
Have any statements about this card in any format?
Embercleave specifically?
Yes.
I like it in a few Voltron decks in Commander, but I don't know its functionality in terms of I think it would be more of a Horde Stomp deck, right? Because it costs less based off the creatures you're attacking with. So in essence, it would be, it's a way to mess up combat damage. So it's dope, but is it Excalibur? Excalibur seems like more of it targets one thing kind of thing,
Mr. Albie, do you have anything to add to this for the competitive circuit?
No, not really. Card's pretty good, but in terms of lore and stuff, I feel like I know literal nothing compared to Lang. Lang seems like he knows everything here, so I'm gonna let him take the lead on this general topic.
Let me draw a picture for you. The Knights of the Round Table attacking as a force. All these knights attacking. The reason I think Embercleave is how it's the epitome of Excalibur is that it has flash. So as these forces attack, you can bring Embercleave in for a reduced cost. So the more people that are attacking, or the more creatures that are attacking, the less it costs. And when Embercleave comes in, it attaches to target creature you control immediately, so there's no attachment cost. And also, it gets +1/+1, has double strike and trample. So this is a mighty, mighty sword.
So we're looking at Knights of the Round Table kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Do they dance whenever they're able? That's the real question.
Yeah.
I would also like Mr. JJ to clarify his statement of attached cost. If you could clarify that for the
Yes.
judge.
So Embercleave has flash. So you attack him with your creatures. When it enters the battlefield, you immediately attach it to target creature you control. So without paying any attach costs on that.
Okay,
attack.
but there's no such thing as an attach cost in the game.
Excuse me. Thank you. And an equip cost.
That's what I wanted clarification.
Thank you for the clarification, sir. You know, Your Honor, you're a very smart guy. And might I say that you're looking very handsome, trim, and fit today. I just want to note that. Just saying.
I want this.
Have you been
those
working out?
comments stricken from the record.
Or cemented in the record. That was pretty a glowing review there.
That's fair. I would like that part of the record clipped out for myself to be framed on my wall. But we can move on to Mr. Chuckwagon's defense if he has any.
I do. Now, if you look through the cards in this set, we have a particular card, Kenrith the Returned. Now, while his name is Kenrith, he is most obviously Arthur in this scenario. And now, if you look at Embercleave, that is obviously a completely different person holding that sword. Much taller, much bulkier. It couldn't be him. So, if it's not Arthur, why would someone else have Arthur's sword?
Your Honor, this argument is utterly ridiculous.
It's all I got.
Can or cannot Kenrith, a mighty human noble, the returned king, wield Embercleave? And the answer is yes. And not only that, he can power up his entire Knights of the Round Table. He can give all the creatures trample and haste. He can put a counter on them. He can put a target creature from the graveyard onto the battlefield under his control. So I rebuke you, Mr. Chuckwagon, and say that Kenrith is the perfect wielder of Embercleave.
I would like to make sure that all damages are equally paid in kind to Mr. Chuckwagon, as there was a very clear attack on his character. But I think we should move on to the next argument. The jury can make light of what they have seen here.
Your Honor, thank you, sir. Well, since we talked about Kenrith, I would like to point out that one of the claims made during our Throne of Eldraine predictions were made. It was that there would be a Monty Python-esque Camelot represented in the set. And with Kenrith, brought up by Chuckwagon MTG, and also predicted by Chuck himself, I say that this king represented in this picture clearly shows a Monty Python-esque King of the Britons.
I see no coconuts.
He has set them aside behind that shrubbery.
I said, there is no evidence of a self-perpetuating autocracy in the Magic the Gathering universe. So I will allow the jury to make their decision based on that information.
A moose once bit my sister.
I'll take that silence as complete agreement with my argument that Kenrith, in fact, is a good representation of the Monty Python-esque Camelot.
I want it to be noted on the record that it's easy to get bitten by a moose in Canada when you're tucked all the way down there.
What do you mean by tucked?
Yeah, I don't get that part, Your Honor.
It's a Simpsons reference. That's it. There's no other. Let that stay on the record.
Your Honor, another claim, since Chuck can make these in sequence. Another claim that Chuck made during our video was that the fairy tribe would be represented, and this is in fact completely self-damning, which I think will, we don't really need to argue too much because fairies are well represented in this set.
I would like the record to show that I believe I was hysterical when I made this comment and this prediction, and therefore it should not be held against me.
Look at Rankle. He's powerful. Rankle.
Just saying back to the point of it being Mind Python-esque, Oathsworn Knight could potentially be considered the Black Knight. Tis but a scratch.
I completely concur with that, Your Honor.
I do not.
Because he has 4/1/1 counters, and as damage is dealt, he loses those counters, but stays alive.
I will allow this information to be entered into the record as they are only a flesh wound to your argument.
And Your Honor, I'd like to go ahead and I want to name two things that I predicted that were actually, two things that I predicted that were not represented. So I'll concede these immediately to Chuck. One was a Morgana type Planeswalker, which did not come to fruition, and the other was the mechanic of Bestow, which I thought would be in the set, and it was not. But with that being said, since we've accounted for those two things, jury, please note that those are two that I concede that I did not get right. I did say that a mechanic that would be in the set would be some sort of transformation mechanic. And I submit to you, to the jury, none other than Oko. Oko. Let me find it. There it is. Oko no, that's not right. The other one, the expensive Thief of Crowns.
This is the one that turns people into elks, right?
That is correct. A +1 of
but not moose.
Target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes an elf. This, my beautiful, lovely jury, is a transformation mechanic that is in the set. What say you?
I see it.
What is the definition of transformation?
To change from one thing to another.
No, but in the terms of Magic the Gathering, if I were to go into the rule book and type in transformation, what can you define to me what I would read?
No, I cannot. We're using a Oxford Dictionary definition of what transform meant. That's what I was using at the time.
A thorough or dramatic change in form or appearance. I would say changing into an elk from anything but an elk is a dramatic change in form and or appearance. If I woke up and I was like, "Oh, I'm an elk now," pretty big change.
And since we're noting concessions, I've made 2 concessions so far. Actually, if you count bears, I made 2 concessions. Want to add one more to that is I thought there would be a coin flip mechanic in the set. So that is definitely did not happen. So I can see that. And then one more outlandish one that I made that I'd also like to concede was I might have hinted that Infect would be in the set. I might have just
What?
I was thinking that, Poison Apple, that they would have a Poison Apple that would
That's so narrow.
that would or the poison mechanic is what I was looking at. Poisons.
Lang apparently finds this idea laughable, and I join him in his glee.
Yeah.
So
Well,
specific.
Well, then I guess I should mention these other 2.
Jesus, JJ.
I thought that Sagas would be in this set for sure.
Oh,
That's not an outlandish claim. I thought it fit the pattern, and I might have thought that the Miracle mechanic would be in this as well.
Mm.
Yeah, which did not happen.
Those are good guesses, though.
Yeah.
Minus the effect.
But since we're on Oko, I wanted to say that that one of the predictions I made was that there would be a Merlin-like planeswalker. Now, I think that in some stretch of the imagination that Oko could possibly fit into that mold because he creates food, and Merlin was attached to nature. He could make trees grow. He could make rivers flow. He can turn things into other animals, which is something that Merlin could do. And he can also exchange control of an artifact or creature with something that you have, which that's just Wizard 101, taking stuff from people.
How many Merlins do you know that have like abs?
Granted, this is a younger, more vibrant version of Merlin who's ripped, who hits the gym 6 hours a day. But yeah, so I can understand, if you guys want to discuss my prediction of the Merlin Planeswalker, please.
So I would like to defer to Albie MTG for this part of the discussion, because Oko has been competitive in not one, not two, but three at least formats in Magic the Gathering. So where do you see this prediction panning out for Mr. JJ?
So Oko is definitely really good, but I don't know what a Merlin is, so I'm just kind of going off of JJ's description. He sold it to me. So unless I'm told otherwise.
So if we are using, like JJ mentioned with Transform, we are actually using the Oxford Dictionary of what a Merlin is. A Merlin is actually a predatory bird, like a small eagle, in which case Oko is nothing like a small eagle.
Also, Merlin's a wizard, and I don't think Oko's a wizard, man.
He can create food from nothing, and he can change things into elves. That's that's a wizard.
He's more like Jesus then.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Jesus turned people into elves.
But he did make food out of nothing.
And he was a wizard.
It would have been comedy, though. It's like someone's like, "Hey, can you heal me?" And he's like, "You're an elf." Gotcha. But yeah, so
elks can't get leprosy, right?
What's that?
I said elks can't get leprosy. Right?
I don't know. I know armadillos can.
Armadillos can. That's why you don't go touching armadillos, because you can get leprosy from them.
The more you know. Little Rainbow.
I would like to have the record show that infographic should be added to that part of the video for public education purposes.
That's a good idea.
The record just has like a PNG of a rainbow.
The more you know. So with that's my Merlin-esque planeswalker. I did have a prediction also that there would be a saga type effect in creature cards. Now, I submit to you that the saga type effect in creature cards is the adventure mechanic. What say you, jury? Adventure mechanic could be described as a saga type effect in creature cards.
I yield to Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, I gotta give you that one. That was a good. That was a good call.
Killing it. Chuck, you have anything to say for yourself?
I plead the Fifth Amendment.
That's right. Reap the whirlwind.
I would like to have it noted that the Fifth Amendment does not hold any legal ground in the Canadian court. So I would like to note that Mr. King of Jank could call you on it.
That's true.
I yield.
What is the Fifth Amendment in Canada?
I don't even know what the Fifth Amendment is. You got that's like you don't have to talk, right?
Yeah,
You don't have to snitch on
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to incriminate yourself.
I plead the fifth is I don't incriminate myself even if I slip up.
I'll look it up. I'm sure we have something similar.
I think I have 2 more left. Yeah.
Oh, there's no such thing as pleading the fifth on the stand in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have to incriminate yourself, Mr. King of Jank.
I incriminate myself to listening to all the BS being spewed out of Mr. Freeze's mouth.
I think, Your Honor, I would like to designate King of Jank as a biased jury member who has been disgruntled by all my accurate predictions.
And I would like to counter with, I believe he should be noted as a very pleasant and kind human being that has been very helpful throughout this entire trial. And not to mention looking awfully handsome today, almost as good as yourself, Your Honor.
I will allow these comments to stand as was noted at the beginning. That many of the members of this jury are friends with the plaintiff. I will allow these comments to stand and highlight the parts about the judge.
It's bolded and in italics. With brackets.
No, I don't want italicized because then that implies sarcasticness.
Oh.
So I want them bolded and highlighted. However, they will not be italicized. Make sure stenographer to take note of that.
Underlined. Emphasize.
Your Honor, I have 2 more predictions I'd like to offer for the jury to discuss. And I think they're both pretty slam dunky. So after this, we can go into...
Can I have that stricken from the record? I never want to hear the word slam dunky again.
Slam dunky.
If the word donkey can't exist, then we would never have had Dunkaroos. So I will allow it.
What are those?
They're kangaroo shaped graham crackers that you could dip into frosting.
Are you serious, Lang?
They
You
are
never heard of
amazing.
Dunkaroos?
No. never.
Dunkaroos.
Jesus.
What is that like? No,
What?
I've never heard
How
of
old
that.
are you? You obviously aren't old enough to be on this jury then if you don't know what Dunkaroos are.
You're older than me, Lang. And I know what Dunkaroos are.
A Canadian knows what Dunkaroos are. You should know.
Yeah, but Canadians are weird. They can't plead the fifth. Like.
That's why we got Dunkaroos. You incriminate yourself, at least you have a
just
nice
eat
snack.
them when like they try to get you to. You're just like.
That's how you get a girl over to your house in the 5th grade. Is you offer up Dunkaroos and to play Sonic CD on your Sega CD. Like that's how you get girls over to your house. It's foolproof.
Where was this secret tech when I needed it?
I know. I feel like I lost out on so much action when I was in 5th grade.
I feel like Mr. Albie's silence is showing that he has abused and used this power many times.
He's eating Dunkaroos right now, right?
No, my silence is that I also don't know what Dunkaroos are, but I didn't want it to be part of the record.
Do they even make Dunkaroos anymore?
I don't know what a Dunkaroo is either.
No, they do not.
They don't?
Nope.
Did that company fold? Wasn't that like Betty Crocker or something?
So apparently a lot of people didn't hear about Dunkaroos.
But you
Just saying.
still can buy them on Amazon. I'm not saying that I'm putting them in my cart right now, but I'm putting them in my cart right now.
Wouldn't they be old though?
Now I know.
No, well they're now with the Nutella stuff or Nutella or I don't know how you pronounce it.
What are these eldritch things? Oh my god.
I would like to have Mr. JJ Freeze continue with his arguments.
So I made
This is a good talk, boys.
Dunkaroos. And speaking of Dunkaroos, I made the claim that there would be a representation on a card of a trail of breadcrumbs, some sort. And for your consideration, I offer trail of crumbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that specifically leaves out the word bread.
it does.
Those could be any kind of crumbs. That could be crumbs of steak, crumbs of
It's just
cheese.
steak crumbs.
There could be crumbs of elk. There's elk everywhere now. Those could be elk crumbs.
And
I'm pretty sure elk crumbs are just ticks.
I'll concede that not all crumbs are created equal, but this is an adequate representation of the trail of breadcrumbs from the Hansel and Gretel story. Yeah, but with that, I also made the claim that there would be a card that is equivalent to Turn to Frog, because it made sense for the set. And for
See, no cards found.
let me get the type out of there. A Frogify crumb. For your consideration, I give you Frogify. 1 in a blue. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature. Slam and Duncan.
So good for EDH.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a frog.
That's a frog.
Factually speaking, it's a frog.
So with this, with my body of evidence, Your Honor, members of the jury, I would like to submit to you that Chuckwagon MTG, Mr. Chuck, who sits before you, munching chips and laughing at you, laughing at your court of justice, mocking you with his every word, is guilty of all charges, that we have reached the 70% threshold of accurately identifying Throne of Eldraine cards in our predictions. I give this to you for your discussion and, Your Honor, for your deliberation, you extremely handsome and good-looking man.
I will again allow the comments to be highlighted, bolded, and in a larger font than the rest of the record. These comments will stay in. I would like to note that Mr. Chuck is doing his due diligence and doing some excellent research while he is under his courtship. So again, all the arguments have been presented to the jury. Mr. Chuck, I would like to hear your final closing arguments.
Yeah, my final closing arguments are: please don't find me guilty.
Don't do the puppy
right,
dog
so-
eyes, all right, man? You know I can't handle the puppy dog eyes.
So, my only question to the jury is there any? Do you need any time to deliberate amongst yourselves?
Yeah, I think. What do you think, guys? A moment to kind of talk about it, maybe assess.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we could take a minute to talk it over.
So on my list, I have Merfolk no, Knights yes, Dwarves yes, Giants yes. It basically it comes down to this simple math of I just awarded points on if they did or didn't. There's about 26 topics. Of those, 13 I said yes. So that's half, which is under 70.
I have I counted 25 top. Oh. You can go first, Albie. Go ahead.
Okay. So I counted 26 topics, but I'm absolving myself from topic number 14, the one with the Monty Python reference, because I've never seen Monty Python. So for me, it's 25 topics here, and I also found 13 of the 25. So that is significantly under 70%, unfortunately.
I have 25 topics. I must be missing one on my list. And I awarded points to Mr. Freeze for 9 of 25. So I don't know what the math is, but that's significantly under 70%. And I'm willing to...
Well, it's not 70.
What?
Well, it's
Oh.
not 70%.
So it's so the jury. Have you had time to deliberate your sentence? So to the jury, you've had your chance to review the evidence. Mr. Lang, as the president of the jury, I would like you to present your findings as the jury.
Okay, so guys, we're going with not guilty here, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
So, Your Honor, we find
Your Honor, before they render their verdict, I just want to throw in some last-minute evidence, and also, if this evidence doesn't work, also move to have the jury thrown out of the court. Yes.
So before the jury makes their final statements, I will allow final statements from the petitioner as well as the defendant. So the petitioner, Mr. JJ, you have the floor.
Your Honor, in lieu of Albie's lack of knowledge of the Holy Grail, the Monty Python-esque Camelot that we discussed earlier, I would like to submit for your consideration these pictures tweeted by Chuckwagon MTG himself, equating Oathsworn Knight to the Black Knight of the Monty Python movie Search for the Holy Grail, as well as Kenrith.
Oh, dang, that is so
adequately
close.
represented.
Oh my God,
the King of
that's
the
so
Britons.
I would like the record to show that I made these posts under duress.
By under duress, he was laughing really hard when he did it.
All right. Thank you very much for your closing remarks. To the defendant, Mr. Chuckwagon, you have the floor.
I was young and needed the money. I'm sorry. I don't know. Yes, I made those posts. That is my closing argument.
Okay. So, Mr. Lang, as the governor of the governing body of the jury, how do you plead to the court?
So guys, not guilty. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Your Honor, we find the defendant completely guilty because I did not take a payoff or take any position in the next Content Creators Cup at all.
That's called winning, people.
Okay, so
Back.
Yeah.
Guilty. Boom. Foreman of the jury said it. Suck it.
This is a travesty that has befallen our judicial system, and I'm not mentioning you guys in the Friday shoutouts anymore.
Mr. Chuckwagon, it looks like the jury has found you guilty of writing checks your ass
Your Honor,
cash.
Your Honor, I object to this.
I object to you.
We need an investigation by Special Counsel Robert Mueller into this. This is an
No, we don't.
outrage. This is an
Fake
outrage.
news.
May those papers flow. We need to know uncensored documentation of how this jury is corrupt and Mr. Freeze is a smear on the democracy of this.
Hey, the question isn't whether
The check comes Monday, right?
Yeah,
JJ?
absolutely.
Mr. King,
All right,
Mr.
all right.
King,
No, we don't.
I would have you know that Mr. Lang was elected the governing body of the jury. So his word is
Not
what
by
stands,
JJ.
not yours.
And not by JJ. It was
random. Completely random.
Yeah.
He was the first that logged in the Skype.
All right, so Mr. Chuck, the jury finds you guilty of writing checks your ash can't cash. So you may submit videos of yourself eating a booster pack of Magic the Gathering cards in any way you see fit. You may put them up as individual videos where you cook them in different styles of dishes. You may also submit any rares, mythics, or foils for another common from the set.
Side note, thanks JJ for the Seb McKinnon playmat. It's dope.
Always have a backup plan.
Objection?
The judgment has been submitted to the record, and there is no further objection to be made. I believe that this case is closed. You may submit an appeal to an area judge for approval. It will be submitted to a state level judge. At which point it can be appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States.
I just want to note that I am the most awesomest lawyer ever. Irrefutable arguments all day long, dropping bombs on stuff. Boom, boom, boom.
Did you click on a Facebook ad to buy that shirt?
No, Walmart. It was like $5 at Walmart.
Hashtag T-shit.
Also, infect, really?
I know. There were some strained logics in there. I agree.
I mean, I completely 100% agree with you because Seb McKinnon says so.
Yeah. What about this Abraham Lincoln? Huh? What's he say?
Well, I mean, that came with the math, right? That was
so. I appreciate the jury, the petitioner, and the defendant's time. Is there anything else that we need to discuss in this court case?
Yeah, the rigged jury.
Mr. Chuck,
you have
30 days. You have 30 days to submit an appeal. I suggest you speak with your lawyer and submit that appeal in the appropriate amount of time.
And if you need help, I can set up an entirely new trial and pick entirely new paid-off people to sit on the jury.
I go by a different name in a different state, so just
it might look like this jury, but with mustaches and maybe glasses.
Yeah, he goes by Langalia 187 in the state of Massachusetts. So
the Prince of Jank, and I'll be Magic the Gathering fully spelled out.
Continue.
And Mr. Lang has donned the appropriate attire, looks like.
Yeah. But I would like to thank everybody for being here. This was a lot of fun. Really appreciate you coming in and complying with my wishes and making Chuck eat a booster pack. And also thank you, Cody, for presiding over this. I know it was tough, a lot of heavy decisions, and I thought you had a lot of wisdom in letting it take out any mythics, rares, or foils, because those are just collectibles.
But if he does open a collector's booster pack and he gets the full art Brazen Borrower, that is to be surrendered to the judge as evidence.
See, now you're just fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, don't eat the foil, because I think a dog ate one somewhere in Montana and it didn't do so well.
I thought if you eat a foil, it'll be in your digestive system for 7 years or something like that. That might be gum. But
yeah, I won't be doing that.
But thank you all for joining us. Chuck, do you have any final words for our group?
No, just disappointment in our extremely biased fake news system.
I don't see how, but
but I would like it to be clarified. Do you mean fake judicial system or the fake news system?
Both.
Cody, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as @FishcastMTG. I host a weekly Merfolk podcast, and hopefully I'll be streaming again. Hopefully the fixes that I will implement here shortly will. Oh, there's my daughter. Hopefully the changes that I implement will fix the problems that I've been having for streaming. So, but you can find us there as well as patreon.com/FishcastMTG.
Albie, where are you at?
So YouTube is AlbieMTG, all one word. Twitter is Albie_MTG, and you can also find me over at Cardsphere writing modern and now Pioneer articles as well.
Nice. And Mr. Josh, King of Jank.
You can find me on YouTube at the channel King of Jank. I haven't uploaded in a while, but I'm going to start again. You can find me at my Twitter, which is below my face right now, and I'm also on Undyne MTG YouTube channel on the Stomping Grounds with the two scrubs to my right.
And Lang.
Yeah, you can find me on the YouTubes and the interwebs under Lang Gallier, and as well on the Twitter on the tag below, as well as on Stomping Grounds, where I did not cut a deal with Mr. JJ.
All right, thank you all for joining us, and catch us next time.